Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm doing a review as a request for someone that I had gotten earlier. I'm actually just getting done with doing work right now, and I'm honestly just resting because I'm a little sore. But I wanted to get this out of the way. The person had asked me, they were my 53rd sub, Mr. Diapan. I don't want to mess up your name. But, anyways, this review is for you. Thank you for actually leaving a comment. And just to let anyone know, if you are interested in me doing reviews, I will do them. So, they asked me to do a review on Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, which is a Netflix show. Funny fact, actually, this was originally released in Japan. So this was originally a Japanese product that Netflix had adapted to the American audience. They had basically leased it out. These were actually films, anime films, released in Japanese theater. And they did quite successful in the Japanese market. So, just a little tidbit, because when I do a review, I like to do my research. So, anyways, there's three parts to these. So, being fair, I've watched part one and part two, but I'm going to break them down in individual movies because I feel like they can be self-contained entities, and I've really watched them, and I'm working on the third part right now. So, that being said, as they were released, I do strongly tend to believe that they were released as a three-part format that should be watched quite continuously, like 1, 2, and 3. But also, too, I think what they might have tried to do is do a self-contained story, because remember, this is in the Japanese box office, so they weren't sure if this movie was going to be successful. First off, let me give you a little bit of a history with me and Godzilla. I absolutely, positively love Godzilla. I love Godzilla. I have a very strong bias to anything Godzilla. I will admit it, I cannot be fair and partial with Big G, as I call him. I love them. I love Godzilla. I love kaijus. That's a Japanese term for giant monsters. I love giant monster movies. I find them great. I know they're corny. I know the dialogue is terrible. I know most of them don't have a plot. And the ones that do have a very old school kind of plot to them. Godzilla, if most of you didn't know, was originally an idea that started because of the bombings that had happened in Hiroshima. Now, by their theory, this reptilian creature is a result of the nuclear bombs dropped by America during the Second World War. This movie was essentially a political protest, if you will, just so happened to be the greatest film of all time. And protests like that, I don't mind, because the bombing of Hiroshima was horrible. World War II in general was a horrible war. So for them to come out, and people were directly affected like this. And I think this product was meant as a way for the people to get over what had happened. And no one knew at that time, when they had created this creature, it would be one of the most iconic monster creatures of all time. And I will literally challenge anyone to that statement. Godzilla is an icon. You can ask anyone, even now, who Godzilla is, and they know who Godzilla is, okay? Godzilla is a legend. All right? He's the OG of any monster that has ever been made, okay? So, that being said, what is my Netflix/Japanese anime take on Godzilla? All right, I'm also a fan of anime. I'm a fan of the new technique where they're integrating 3D effects into animation. I think CG works a lot better in an animated form than it does personally in a regular movie format. Sorry if I'm drinking online. I've had a tough day, and water. Good for you. Okay, so what works for me? I'm going to give you my pros, my cons. I gave you the overview. I'm going to tell you whether or not it's worth seeing these. My pros. This film is gorgeous. Okay? There's been a lot of debate about whether or not the story is coherent, and I believe that it can't be coherent unless you see all three movies because they kind of flow into each other. But each individual movie that I appreciate, and especially in this one, it has a distinct style of its own. It is its own essential thing. And most importantly, how they do Godzilla is what I look at when I look at a Godzilla film. And to be quite honest with you, I find this version of him very terrifying, as he should be. Okay, so the plot of this movie is it takes place in the future. Humankind has essentially messed everything up. These monsters are running rampant, and the big, like, shadowy figure is Godzilla. Godzilla in this first movie really doesn't appear until the latter half of the film. And I don't have a problem with this because a lot of it is character driven. It is driven by the characters, and I apologize if I don't know their names because it's been a bit since I've watched the first movie. But our main protagonists, essentially, these people have left the planet Earth because Earth has become home of Godzilla. A few years back, he came, he started some nonsense, wrecked some buildings, man fled into space. Now, the whole premise of the movie is they come back to reclaim Earth, to reclaim our home. But keep in mind, very few people actually remember what Earth was. And already the premise of the story is kind of generic. We've heard it before. What makes this take interesting is how they're using Godzilla as the catalyst. But strangely enough, Godzilla is not just the driving factor for them leaving Earth. Okay? I'm going to go off screen while I take a drink of water. Okay, because I find that rude. Anyways, so Godzilla himself is not the driving catalyst necessarily of man leaving. The driving catalyst of man leaving Earth is much deeper. There's global conflicts, there's wars, and things like that. There are two sides that battle each other in this war, and then Godzilla is just a final wedge that forces them to unify and get together. Now, there's a lot of things happening in this movie. You have a religious, like, scientific section that believes that there's this thing that's supposed to bring balance, and none of that will make sense till about the second to third movie. You have one section that believes there is a weapon that can stop Godzilla, and the main protagonist is someone who witnessed Godzilla destroying their home and decided that he wants to take the Earth back. So they lead an expedition. But Godzilla is not the only threat. It is called Godzilla, Planet of the Monsters. And in Earth's Lost, they have now been overrun with other creatures and other things that inhabit the world now. So the world they knew is different. Earth is no longer the same. And a lot of people don't remember what Earth was like. And this makes a different dynamic because fighting for something you know is a lot harder than fighting for an idea, a dream, but it's not your dream. You don't even really know why you're fighting for this dream. And I think where Godzilla, Planet of the Monsters, really works for me is not so much the factor of Godzilla. He's more of like a boogeyman that's in the background. And don't get me wrong, when he appears, it is epic. It is everything that you expect in a Godzilla movie. You're like, wow, mind blown. Like, honestly, love the design for Godzilla. Love the fire breathing and all that. He's got like the blue flash, and like when Godzilla comes, you go, oh man, stuff is going down. Big G's gonna wreck stuff. Okay, I call him Big G. I always have. That's kind of like that's my thing for him. But when Godzilla shows up, he's kind of treated like this shadowy figure, and like they're trying to get to him, but there's things in the way, and these other creatures that are in the way are these weird flying monster things. And it's great because the humans are vastly underprepared for what they're about to face. I mean, they got spaceships and this like nanotechnology that keeps them safe or whatever, but they are hopelessly outgunned in this situation. And when they get to the planet in the beginning, they are decimated, like just on entry. And they're like, hey man, how are we supposed to take out this Godzilla creature? And we just got wiped out trying to get to the surface. So I think where this movie really works, its pros, is the fact that it has a strong narrative between the characters, and the conflict is actually between the characters themselves and not so much the monster. The monster is just a plot device. The character's story is what takes center stage. And this is going to be the big factor on whether or not you like this show, is the fact that it's very character driven. And if you're expecting to see Godzilla right away, you're not going to. The second movie really plays more on Godzilla, but this film is just really an introduction to the planet and the characters and things like that, and it's story building. The thing that I like about this movie, I hate movies that just throw in things just to have them there. I hate those films that are marketing tools and just use the main monster as like, oh, we've got Godzilla, everybody come see our movie, and there's no story, no plot, and I don't care about the people. It just becomes a movie about a giant creature destroying things that's mindless. This really builds the characters, so you're feeling the struggle. And to me, the biggest villain of this movie are the people themselves, the constant conflict they have. Now, the cons. The cons for this is you really don't see Godzilla that much. Really, Godzilla is in the background, and I think it's meant to set up for the second film, which introduces Mechagodzilla. And I'll have a second review for that. I'm still on the fence whether or not I like how they did that. Remember, this show is a reimagining of a character that has existed for a really long time. So it's unique. Now, like I said, beautiful art, beautiful animation. It does take a long time to get to the planet. There's a lot of like subplot. There's a story element in there between the main character and this girl, and a little love side plot. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll dive more into that in the second movie review. But it's weird. It doesn't work for me. And their dialogue that in this first film is, it doesn't feel like there's any chemistry between these characters. And I also hate forced chemistry. I hate forcing that concept of, oh, there's a guy, there's a girl, they naturally have to like each other. I think that if you're building relationships, they should be organic, and that, you know, you should feel, if they don't like each other, you should feel that tension, and then you should feel the walls coming down, and then, you know, it kind of happens naturally. And I hate when they just put that in just to make a dynamic and dramatic moment. Other than that, I don't have very many cons. I think that most people will be turned off by the fact that this is a slow build. This is not a movie that you go in expecting to see high excitement right away. There is exciting action, but it's more about the story. It's more about getting you to the part of seeing the creature. It's building the anticipation. And once you're there, when you see Godzilla, he does not disappoint. I mean, it does not let you down. And I love the fact, and I don't want to spoil it, but I love the fact that they build, and your natural state of mind, just like any movie is, oh, the heroes, they're going to find a way. They're going to beat this thing, you know? And I like how when a movie builds that tension and they subvert your expectation because it's true to life, okay? I mean, think about it. This is a colony who hasn't seen Earth in years. They lose half their people trying to get to the surface. Do you think that underprepared crew realistically could beat a giant monster like Godzilla? I mean, and who knows how he's evolved, how he's changed. And they're coming in thinking that they're just going to go in, they're going to reclaim the earth, and they're going to take down this creature. And let me tell you, they are sorely mistaken, okay? I mean, I don't want to give it away, but it's funny. It's funny to watch the ending because I'm watching it and I'm laughing. And I'm not laughing because it's a bad ending. I'm laughing at the arrogance of certain characters that have like a real life mindset. Like they were just going to go in and they were going to like dominate and it's funny. It's funny to watch. But Godzilla, Planet of Monsters. Would I recommend this for you? Yes, I would. I would recommend this film. I think this is a great character study. I think this is a good way of building tense, dramatic drama and luring people in. And these days with movies and how terrible they are and how they don't have any sense of world building or character building, to me, the world is a character within itself. And I like that. I have a few criterias. I have to be entranced by the world. I have to be taken in by the characters. And I have to feel that the threat is real, that these people's lives are really in danger. And character building and world building is important because you have to care about the character. You have to be fascinated by the world to have the threat be relevant, to be prevalent to the story that you're telling. If you have a really good threat, but you don't have people you care about, then you're not emotionally invested in these characters. You don't care. And that's the worst feeling, because then why are you even watching it, right? Why are you investing your time in something if the creature is just like there and that's the whole story, you know? And I'm sure you guys have seen monster movies like that, where by the time you get to it, you're like, oh man, I just can't wait for this monster to come and just destroy all these people because they are so stupid. I don't know why they did what they did. But this isn't like that. These guys make a good plan. They have a good idea. They have strong core belief. And they're fighting for their home. And it might have been done before, but that's the most powerful tool you can use in storytelling. When you are fighting for where you grew up, and then not only that, you're fighting with people who've lost the sense of identity because they've been in space so long that they forgot what their own home is. That's powerful. That's emotionally impactful because now you have good conflict. You have a few people who remember what it was like, and you have kids who don't. And you have them questioning, why are we dying for your cause? And they believe it with their heart. They're like, this is my home. I want my home back. Space is not a home. It's an empty, vast void, okay? You want a place where you could put your feet down and relax. And that's what these people are fighting for. That's the message in this film. And I think that the film directors, they convey that very well. So overall, check it out. I'm going to do a review on the next one as well, which is, I believe it's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla or something like that. I got to look it up on Netflix. I forget exactly the title because I'm going to... Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will do Dead Space Downfall. That's actually sidebar. Dead Space is one of my favorite franchises. Not Dead Space 3, hated that game, but I followed the games, the shows, the anime, all that, the little CGI anime that they did. So I'll do a video on that. But thank you for tuning in. I will be doing another live stream. I'm going to cover this whole series. So thank you for the suggestion. And anyone else who likes it, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If you like my channel, please tell other people about me and about my channel and the reviews that I do. And as always, I will see you guys all back here again, or